The night shift. The crisp chill of the midnight air always seemed sharper at 3:30 a.m., when most of the town was deep in slumber, save for the few scattered lights that pierced the darkness. One such light belonged to the local 24-hour convenience store where James, a college student struggling with tuition fees, had recently taken up a night shift job. The routine was always the same: stock the shelves, clean the aisles, serve the occasional late-night wanderer, and immerse himself in study during the quiet hours. James had started noticing the pattern about 2 weeks into his shift. Every morning, at exactly 3:33 a.m., a figure would appear at the door, a man, tall and dressed in a heavy coat, no matter the weather. His face was always obscured beneath a hood, shadowed and indistinct. The man would stride in, his steps echoing slightly on the linoleum floor, pick up a coffee, a sandwich from the refrigerated section, and a local newspaper, then pay in cash without uttering a single word. The exactitude of the timing, the unchanging ritual of his purchases, and the way he always left, walking briskly towards the north, piqued James's curiosity. There was something eerie yet fascinating about this customer, and over time, the urge to unravel the mystery of his nocturnal visits grew stronger. Driven by a mix of intrigue and the recklessness that often accompanies the weariness of late-night shifts, James decided to follow the man one night. He planned it carefully, arranging with a friend to take over the counter for a few minutes after 3:33 a.m. The next night, as the clock neared the time, his heartbeat quickened with a mix of nervous excitement and dread. Right on schedule, the man appeared. He completed his purchase and left the store, his figure a dark spot receding into the mist that had settled over the street. James slipped out after him, keeping a safe distance as he followed the man north, past the dimly lit streets of the sleeping town. The route was unfamiliar, leading away from the main residential areas toward the outskirts. The further they went, the fewer streetlights there were, and the surroundings grew increasingly desolate. Finally, the man turned into a narrow, unlit pathway that led to an old building that James recognized as an abandoned factory that had been closed down for years after a fire. Hesitation gripped James as he watched the man enter through a side door. The place was known to be dangerous, a hangout for vagrants, and possibly worse. But curiosity, now edged with a sharp thrill of fear, drove him forward. He waited a few minutes before following the man inside, his phone's flashlight cutting a narrow swath of light through the enveloping darkness. Inside, the air was cold and stale, the silence of the abandoned building more oppressive than the quiet of the night outside. James moved cautiously, the beam from his phone flickering over graffiti-covered walls and debris-strewn floors. He heard a sound, a soft thump from the lower levels, and followed it, each step taking him deeper into the bowels of the factory. What he found there chilled him to the core. The flashlight fell on a scene that looked almost ritualistic. A circle of chairs, each with a piece of clothing draped over it, and in the center, a pile of personal items, watches, jewelry, wallets. Each item, he realized with growing horror, could be linked to the local news stories of people who had gone missing in the area over the past year. James's breath caught in his throat as he heard footsteps behind him. He turned slowly to see the man standing there, his face finally visible under the dim light. It was a face James had seen before, not in person, but in the photographs of a local who had vanished without a trace, presumed dead after an extensive but fruitless search by the authorities. Panic and adrenaline surged through James as he backed away, the man's eyes following him with a calm, almost detached expression. Without another moment's hesitation, James turned and ran, stumbling through the darkened corridors and out into the cold night air. He didn't stop running until he reached the brighter, safer streets of the town, and didn't stop shaking until long after he had called the police from the trembling safety of his apartment. The investigation that followed unearthed a chilling network of disappearances, all linked to that abandoned factory and the mysterious man who had been hiding in plain sight, visiting the convenience store at 3:33 a.m. As the details unfolded in the following weeks, James quit his night shift, unable to shake the haunting images of what he had seen, or the unsettling realization of how close he had come to becoming part of the man's macabre collection. He would never forget the night shift that turned his simple job into the backdrop for a discovery so sinister it seemed to bleed darkness into the shadows of the town itself. If you enjoyed the chilling twists of the night shift, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more gripping stories. Join us as we unravel more mysteries and dive into the dark corners of the night. Stay tuned.